And away we go. It is the BCJ podcast presented by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com. If you're going down to Great American Ballpark, and it would appear there's going to be a lot more people doing that now, make sure you stop by and visit our good friends at the Holy Grail, and they will get you taken care of before and after Reds games, Taylor Swift concerts, or pretty much anything and everything going on down at the Banks. So stop by and tell them Bearcat Journal sent you. They'll get you taken care of. Great food, great drinks, and all the best to our good friends at the Holy Grail. And I won't mention his name. Dave was apparently offended that we discussed the biggest topic in Cincinnati sports last night on the nightcap. So I won't say Ellie at all.
I didn't know he was affiliated with the Bearcats.
We compared it to other Bearcat premiers. Guys that were, that had all the hype when they took the field. So it was a Bearcat related. That's what you do in the content game, Dave. You take something that's happening that's relevant and you compare it to something else that's UC related. If you would have listened to more than 30 seconds, you would have heard
it. I'm really bummed I didn't.
All right, we're going to kick this off with our second sponsor, because we are going to do a little bit of a new segment here between now and the start of the Bearcats' first season in the Big 12, and that is getting as much information as we possibly can about all of the teams that Cincinnati will be joining starting July 1st. It is brought to you by our good friends at Team Ticker. You can see it right there. TeamTicker.com. They are running a special right now through Father's Day where you can get $50 off. So it's only $249. It's a one-of-a-kind sports sign for Bearcat fans. It's a high-tech retro display. It provides daily updates of the latest news, stats, schedules, betting odds, and much more. No subscription required. If you're looking for the perfect addition to your man cave or a gift for that special Bearcats fan, go to TeamTicker.com and pick up your Team Ticker today. And with that, we welcome in Chris Anderson from earsports.com in the 24/7 Sports Network, the number one site for news and information about the West Virginia Mountaineers. Chris, how's it going, my friend?
I'm doing all right. Just doing the usual Little League baseball, official football visitors, recruiting camps, all that good stuff that comes in June.
Absolutely. We're starting to get into our, learning about our new opponents more in depth, and
I felt like about West Virginia.
That's why I felt like there was no better place to start than, I don't know if you want to call them, rivals. I mean, they had some great games, but they weren't together in the Big East for such a long period of time that they became great rivals. But my brother went to West Virginia.
Games.
I have many fond memories of UC West Virginia games. I went to the LSU West Virginia game back in the day with the Honey Badger and Patrick Peterson. So no better place to start than a good trip that I know Bearcat fans are looking forward to. Then talking some Mountaineer football. I kind of want to start though with last year and just the whole Neil Brown, the vibe. I think the buyout probably ended up being prohibitive to making a move when all was said and done. If that's not accurate, please correct me. But just kind of where are things going into this year? It would seem that now he is definitively on the proverbial hot seat. What has kind of been, it's never one thing, but what's kind of been the issues that have kept him from really getting things going over there?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's mediocrity, and that's what 4 years has been. They're around a 500 team ever since he got there, and for the first 3 years, it was offense. They could not find any rhythm on offense. The defense was somewhere between very good and excellent each of those seasons. They tried several different things with offensive coordinator. Originally, he was the play caller, kind of, sort of. He handled it off to Jared Parker, maybe. It's a point of contention around Morgantown because there was no clear-cut answer, and every time you asked, there was a different answer. And then they brought in Graham Harrell. So this is the fix. We're bringing in Graham Harrell, this brilliant offensive mind, air raid offense. We're getting JT Daniels, who was a former 5-star quarterback, and this offense is going to be great. And the offense was mediocre again. And then you paired that with a defense that was just ravaged by injuries and transfers, and things went south pretty quick last season. And to be quite honest, I think at the beginning of the year, if you would have told me 5-7, I would have said it was a disaster. But the way things went kind of at the beginning and the middle of the year, they were lucky to get back to 5-7.
So now what? Harrell and Daniels are both gone.
Yep.
So we'll kind of just roll right into that and stick with the offense. What does the new offensive coordinator plan look like compared to what Graham was doing, which I'm sure it's 180 degrees from what he was doing? And then where does the QB situation stand? Like I kind of did looked a little bit. It sounds like there's a couple guys vying for it, neither of which have a ton of experience. One's is he a true freshman or redshirt freshman?
Yeah,
kind of like where does the offense go? Is it just taking a whole new turn now in year 5?
Well, I think the easier answer, and I'll start there, is with quarterback, because they played it as a 2-man battle between Garrett Green, who took over the starting job after. Daniels didn't even get hurt. It was just poor play. He subbed in for him, and Green got a couple big wins for West Virginia, and then Green got hurt. So then Nico Marchio, who was a coveted freshman last season, stepped in, and he didn't do much of anything except leading offense. He didn't run some explosive offense. It was more just a ground and pound. But Neil Brown said at the end of spring, things are still open. Sure. It's probably Green, but I think you have to say at this point that it's still open because it's not so clearly definitive that it's one over the other. If you say it is one or the other, then the other one's gone. So at this point, you kind of say it's still a 2-man battle, and it'll stay that way till camp. But I think Green has a leg up right now. As for the offense, they hired running backs coach Chad Scott, just promoted it from within, which I think raised a lot of eyebrows. Like, hey, wait, the problem in the last 4 years has been the offense. And now you promote from within from one of the few guys that's been here all 4 years. It's a good point, and I understand where fans are coming from with that. But I think West Virginia is trying to lean into their strengths. They are returning all 5 linemen that started in the season last year. 3 of them, I think 3 of them, maybe 4 of them have started multiple seasons now. And then you go into the running back room where they had 4 guys. One of them ended up leaving at the end of spring, which was understandable, but 4 different guys that had, starter caliber reps last year, and they're going to be running it back. So I think they're going to lean heavily into this running game, this running back room, this offensive line, and it makes sense to go with that running backs coach, the guy who has built that, that the strongest room on the team, I would say.
So will he call plays or will Brown call plays? If that was a thing last year, I imagine it's probably is he going to let the first time offensive coordinator in a year that he needs to win some games actually call the offense? That seems hard to believe.
I've said it from the very beginning. Again, we're not getting a clear-cut answer from Neil Brown. He kind of said, "Yeah, we'll see. We're going to give him a shot this spring." That's what he said at the beginning of spring. We're going to give Chad Scott a chance to call some plays this spring, see how it goes. And then he made it even more confusing at the end of spring by just kind of dropping this little nugget that quarterbacks coach Sean Reagan called some plays at some point in the spring. And it's just, now what are we doing? But I'm with you. If it were my job, if it were saying hey, this is your last chance and your job depends on it, your career almost depends on what happens this season, I'm calling plays. I'm going to, if I'm going down, I'm going down under my own, on my own accord here, and I'm gonna make the play calls, and we're gonna go down calling the plays that I want to play in the game I want to play. So I imagine it will end up with Neil Brown back at calling plays.
What offensively? You mentioned offensive line. Is there anything they're going to be able to lean on, or is it the offensive line? In terms of, is it a wide receiver group? Is it running backs? Or do they just say, we've got the experience on the offensive line. We're going to try to make that what this is all about? Which, when you think air raid, my brain doesn't go to offensive line.
Yeah. No, I think that's the way they're going to go. I mean, right now you have they lost all their top 4 receivers from last year, replaced them with 4 transfers. So you're kind of rolling the dice. Maybe they end up being good, maybe not. But you know what you have in the running back room. You have 3 guys who ran for over 100 yards in a game last year. You brought in a couple big-time recruits. You know you have 5 starters back on the offensive line. And you know you have a quarterback that can run the ball, 2 quarterbacks that can run the ball. So I think you're going to see this offense kind of lean more into some read option. I don't want to call back to the, Pat White, Steve Slayton, Rich Rod kind of offenses that, you saw towards the end of the Big East days. But I think you will see more runs, run options here and different things with those guys, and just play to their strengths, because I think the wide receiver room is completely unknown.
Defensively, you said it kind of had flipped from the first few years Neil was there. Was there anything in particular that, kind of led to them, or was it just the collective group just either didn't have the talent, the scheme wasn't working, how did they go from being pretty good to really good to being kind of a tire fire last year?
Yeah, I mean, it was almost entirely the secondary, really. You started by losing a lot of guys to the transfer portal, which just killed them. And I think, they tried to add some guys, but they certainly – well, I'm trying to think of how one of our members put it, because it was great. They lost dudes and replaced them with guys. And if you catch my drift there, just lost some real talent and just replaced them with bodies, more or less. And then one of the guys that they were relying on to try to carry that secondary was Charles Woods, who was named preseason All Big 12. And he more or less broke his ankle 14 snaps into the season opener. So when you were expecting him to carry kind of one side of that defense, one side of that secondary, and then you have 3-4 transfers, you're hoping, hey, just one of those guys will work out for one spot. But now you got to hope that 2 of them are working out for 2 spots, and then all of a sudden they're having to fill in safety because other guys are getting hurt, and it was just just a run of stuff, just back to back to back, and it went south fast.
Woods is transferred now, right, to SMU?
That's correct. He got hurt, was out for a while. He got what I call the Tua surgery. He had it was like a really bad sprain, but they went and did that special surgery.
The tightrope. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he came back, tried to play a couple more weeks. It just wasn't working, and he shut it down. So he got the 4 games. So he was able to redshirt technically this year, and then he was done with it. He was ready to go.
So where do they go this year? Like, how do you see it? If you do, I should preface, if you do see it improving, like where, given the portal and all the stuff that you mentioned, like where do they get better defensively to try to get back, right the ship from last season?
Well, I think this is where it's different from last year. And I kept track for everybody in the league. And last year, West Virginia lost the most snaps in the league, but they weren't one of the top 3 in adding new snaps by the transfer portal. And this year, I think they are 2nd or 3rd at last check in lost snaps. They're still up there, still kind of depressing if you're a WVU fan. But they were also like 2nd or 3rd in additions this season. And they went out and they added some talent, especially in the secondary. They added guys like Keyshawn Cobb from Buffalo, who was a very good starter. Beanie Bishop, who excelled, was like all conference at Western Kentucky, and then was a kind of that 5th cornerback at Minnesota. I think they're going to rely a lot on Montre Miller, a transfer from Kent State, who rated out really highly on Pro Football Focus, one of the best corners around. So, again, they got a lot of bodies, and you're going to kind of find out which one of those guys. You're hoping like at least 2 of them can kind of hit, because they added, I believe it was 4 defensive backs by transfer. You're just hoping that 1 or 2 of them can hit.
So, taking all the, or I guess before I get to that, how has, with Brent, with the issues that they've had, has it started to truly, we know it's going to happen with the transfer portal. Like UC's dealing with it with a coaching change. If things are not going in a good way, guys are going to be getting out. Guys are also going to come in because they, see the opportunity for playing time, but your level of guy coming in when things are trending in the wrong way is not going to be as good as the guys going out. So we know that's there. How has all this affected high school recruiting? Because I know you mentioned you got a big visitor weekend, but they only also, and it's early still, but only have 3 commitments. So these last couple of years, how has the struggles affected Brown's recruiting on the high school level?
Honestly, it's been the same. Like there hasn't been that obvious hit. It hasn't been that clear as far as where they rank compared to previous seasons, even under Neil, under Dana, and going back. It's about the same kind of classes as far as where they end up in the class ranks and the guys they're bringing in. I do think the last certainly this last class, maybe 2. I'm trying to think of that last class, the 2 classes that go off the top of my head. It wasn't as top heavy. I felt like there were a lot of solid guys. Like if you go strictly off the rankings, like a lot of those guys that are in that 87, 88 range, they're a good solid 3 stars, top 50 at their position. But prior to that, it always seemed like West Virginia pulled 2 like legit 4-star kids, maybe 3 of them, guys that you could kind of hang your hat on, that you knew they were going to make a difference. And last year, they got Rodney Gallagher, big time player, but he's just barely on the fringe of that 4-star if you look at the ratings, and he was it. That was it. I mean, they had another All-American in Josiah Trotter, but there was some mixed reviews on him from other outlets, and now he's torn his ACL and he's out for the season. So West Virginia's kind of in a tough spot with this class again.
I just have to know, October 12th, how excited are you? Are you going to Houston and go see Dana again?
Not me personally, no. That's going to be a very interesting kind of stretch there. Not just because of the Dana thing, not because of the Houston thing, but I mean, partly because of it. But right before that is the bye week. And if you look at West Virginia's schedule to start the season, if you're one of those people that's on, Neil Brown hot seat watch, it's at Penn State, where I believe West Virginia's already opened as a double-digit underdog. You presumably win FCS game against Duquesne, and then you got Pitt, Texas Tech, and at TCU. There is a world where West Virginia is sitting at 1-4 right there and heading into a bye week. Now, granted, it's a short bye week because I think that Houston game's a Thursday matchup.
Thursday night, 7:00.
Yeah, it could be one of those situations where everybody's talking about, is this the end? Is this the end? And man, if they're 1-4 or 2-3, and then they go to Houston and get embarrassed,
Yeah,
it would not be good. I know some certain people in Houston would enjoy that very much, but certainly not in Morgantown.
You got any more team-specific stuff, Dave?
Yeah, I wanted to ask him. You mentioned the secondary and needing some pieces, and you actually in the 2023 class got 2 kids from Cincinnati. And Josiah and Jordan Jackson. I was just curious, like, where do they slot in right now on the depth chart? Did they play it all last year? Are they looking to be able to get on the field this year?
So yeah, both defensive backs. I think we've got them both listed in them. These corners on the thing or athlete or whatever, but both defensive backs. Josiah enrolled early, so he probably has a better shot of getting on the field. I wouldn't say he's in the 2 deep right now, which is not unheard of with 2 freshmen, but he probably has a better chance of making a difference this season than his brother Jordan, because Jordan just got here like 2 days ago.
I'm sorry. I got my ears crossed up. I thought that they were already there, but never mind. So, yeah. But yeah, it was just interesting to get, grab a couple, because West Virginia has historically recruited Ohio pretty well, but I don't know if Neil if his ties are more back to like the Rich Rod days of the Floridas and the South, or where the majority of his high school kids are coming from.
Yeah, it's been a lot of the same places. They try to get into Ohio some. I'm surprised there hasn't been more of that Southern Ohio kind of northern, because his roots are back in Kentucky, like right across the border from Cincinnati. So I would think there would have been more. There have been a few guys. Like he's pulled a few guys from Kentucky when West Virginia was not a big recruiter of Kentucky prior to his arrival. But they dabbled in spots, and just like Dana did when West Virginia had the Big 12, and he was like, we're going to go to Texas and recruit. That lasted one cycle, and it was like, oh, never mind. Let's not do that. Let's go back to the normal spots. So, yeah, it's South Florida, it's Maryland, it's Ohio, it's Western Pennsylvania, it's New Jersey.
That's really interesting to me, because there have been a lot of people think, like, we're in the Big 12 now, Cincinnati fans, we're just going to go start recruiting Texas. Like, Florida is a place where everybody eats, right? Everybody's got a table in Florida. Texas doesn't feel like that. Texas still feels very centralized, regionalized, I guess maybe. You don't see Texas kids spreading out that much, it doesn't feel like.
Yeah, I think if you look at like Florida, like I feel like let's call them like second tier kids, the kids that like maybe aren't going to Florida.
There's 100 4-star kids in Florida. So
yeah. And they're willing to go other places. They're willing to look at Cincinnati, at West Virginia, Indiana, these schools out towards the north, towards the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic. But yeah, I'm with you. Like I think in Texas, West Virginia dabbled there. They got a couple kids. One off the top of my head panned out. Noble Nwachukwu, he was a good defensive lineman, but again, he was a kid that like his next best offer was maybe UNT, like North Texas. It's not like West Virginia was beating, say, Texas Tech for these kids. Like if they're in Texas and Texas Tech offered, they're not considering West Virginia basically.
Right. So you mentioned the rough start of the schedule this year. Like, what do you like? Just prognosticating on June 7th. Like, what kind of record do you think is realistic, and what kind of record do you think is needed for Neal to get extension? Because just getting one more year or whatever that doesn't help him at all. He probably needs an actual extension. So, do you think it's doable? Do you think it's dead man walking situation? Like, where do you think this heads by when we get to November?
I think we'll have an answer, maybe after that Houston game one way or another, because I think either by the Houston game or the Oklahoma State game the week after that'd be October 21st. You're looking at a team like if they're 3-3 or 3-4, like what are we doing here? If it's just another year that's going to end up somewhere between 5-7 or 6-6 or 4-8, like what are we doing here? So I think at that point you're going to have an answer, because either they're going to be 3-3 and 3-4, or they're going to be 5-2 or 6-1, and everybody's going to be like, "Oh yeah, I was always a Neal Brown guy. I was always that was my guy."
Hey, you're like, yeah, I knew it. It was just going to take him some time.
Yeah.
There's a thought process that year 3 is actually the toughest in some ways for a new coach. That changes now with the transfer portal, obviously, because things can move so fast. Was last year a year that he had a bunch of older guys from the previous regime that they're still kind of cycling through? Like, what was the kind of the makeup of the kids he was relying on last year as like the upperclassmen, the veterans of that team that saw things go sideways?
Yeah, it was a strange mix. I think the vast majority of the kids, the leaders of that team, the seniors that you're talking about, like a Dante Stills, a Bryce Ford Wheaton, and the good kids, great leaders, but they were Dana's guys. Like they were recruited by Dana. A lot of those seniors, those fifth-year guys, they were recruited by Dana, so they weren't even the guys that Neal brought in. And then you're pairing them with your other seniors more or less being transfers. So now you're got this mix of another coach's seniors. Granted, you've been coaching them for 3 or 4 years, and then seniors that just arrived from another school. So I do think there was, that's something every team I think is probably facing, at least to some degree.
The Big 12 as a whole, obviously, this is UC's first football season into the Big 12. Is there anything we know it's going to be quite a step up from the American? There's no more trips to South Florida or Temple, on the schedule. There's no, I would say especially after they only play Oklahoma and it's at home, so no Texas. I don't know if UC paid somebody or what, but they got quite a sweet welcome to the Big 12 schedule. No TCU, no Texas Tech, no Texas, Oklahoma at home.
There you go.
So, but what is kind of the week to week of it as that you could say from your perspective, because you guys did a similar move, several years ago, but still somewhat recently. So just like, for UC fans to get an idea of the nature of the conference and what the week to week of it is like.
I think the key here was what you just said, was week to week, because when West Virginia came to the Big 12, that was, they had Geno, they had Tavon, they had Stedman Bailey, they had NFLers and, college record breakers up and down that first team. But that's the thing. West Virginia, when they were in the Big East, and all the teams that were in the Big East, they were at a certain talent level, at least like as far as the whole roster goes. Their first team could compete with anybody's first team. It was once you got past like those top, maybe not even the whole first team, but maybe once you got past those first like 15 of your 22 starters, that's where you see the difference when you move up to Big 12 play, when you move, like if you were moving to SEC, Big 12, Big 10. And I think that's what caught up to West Virginia, because that's why you saw West Virginia have so much success with some of these one-off games, like beating Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, beating Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl, beating Clemson in the Orange Bowl. And then they come to the Big 12 and they kind of get brought down to earth. And I think that's because when you have to grind like that week in, week out against these teams, you're going to have injuries, you're going to have departures, you're going to have scenarios where you're relying on, player number 33. And your player number 33 might not even make the roster of like an Oklahoma, like wouldn't even be in the top 8. And that's where West Virginia started running into trouble. That's where West Virginia realized, hey, we have to build up depth here because we're not going to last. And I think that's something that I'm sure the coaches know, and fans probably know. But I just remember thinking it when West Virginia went to the Big 12, and it was even more than I could have imagined.
Some of the best environments that you've experienced in this league. Like, what does Cincinnati have to look forward to? Because fortunately for you guys, you didn't face exile. You never experienced a Black Friday game in Tulsa with 30 of the closest friends and family of the Tulsa staff and team in attendance. What does Cincinnati have to look forward to when going on the road in a league where back to being in a league where everybody actually cares about their football team? It's weird for us. It's weird.
It's funny you mention this right now because I just happened to do a story up on our site the other day about the largest crowds that West Virginia's ever played in front of. Just some standard summer filler kind of thing before camps got started right there at the end of the year. And I went to go see West Virginia's, and none of the top, I think it was like 35 or 40, were at West Virginia Stadium. Now, West Virginia Stadium is capped at about 60,000 now. It was higher than that. They topped 70-some thousand, before seats got swapped out for suites and whatnot. But you go and look now at West Virginia's top game, and it's just largest crowds. It's Texas, 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 Oklahoma, 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 Oklahoma. So it's just whatever you think is like a large crowd. And I know, like, some even smaller stadiums, like they're more intimidating. Like Texas Tech is wild. Like they're nowhere in any of the top 30, 40, 50 attendance lists.
They throw tortilla chips at you.
Their wall, like where the stadium right behind, or where the students are right behind the players' bench, is about 10 feet, I feel, from like where the players stand. And yeah, then they throw tortillas on the field, and so you're right next to the fans. You got tortillas flying. In Texas, you got 100,000 people there, and it's so.
I
It's
bet
just
those
like,
tortillas are delicious, though.
Yeah.
Probably homemade. They're not coming out of a bag.
No. But I think that was another thing everybody used to, was just going out there. So there's certainly a lot of fans that still make all these trips, that still go to all these stadiums. I don't want to say it lost some of its pizzazz, but yeah, the first couple of years, it's all everyone talks about. Oh, I'm going to Austin. Oh, I'm going to Norman. Oh, I'm going to Stillwater. It's going to be so amazing. After one or two trips, like, yeah, I'm good.
Sure.
I don't need to do it again. But it is something kind of wild to think about with the size of these stadiums.
Are they excited to come back to Nippert? Like somewhere that you don't have to get on a plane to go to again?
You know what? I was about to say, who's going to be happy about that? Because the person we hear about it most from is actually Bob Huggins. And I was about to say, I don't know if Bob Huggins is going to be happy to go back to Cincinnati right now.
It's hard to win in Cincinnati.
It's hard.
Yeah.
You ever been to Lubbock 9 o'clock on a Wednesday? It's hard.
Well, that's the big thing, is that you finish those games, like especially night games. I mean, it's harder for basketball, and because Huggins is right. Like, they go out there, they set up the schedule so that you go down there to play Saturday, Monday, back to back, but you stay down there. So you go down, you play Baylor on a Saturday, and then you kind of hop on a bus and go over and play TCU on a Monday night. But you're playing Big Monday on ESPN. Game starts at 9 p.m. That game ends at 11. It's the second game you played in 48 hours. and then you have to get back to your hotel on a plane, and you're landing back in Morgantown at 4 a.m., and then you have to be at class like a couple hours later. It just sounds brutal.
You know where Bob will be the night before the game in Cincinnati?
Oh, where's that?
You see that logo in the upper right-hand corner of the screen? I can guarantee he'll stop by for a hello.
Are you in Morgantown, Chris?
Not right now, no. We got Mike that's there and a couple other of our writers that are there right now. But
Well, I'll be going to the game, so maybe we'll catch up with it, and I'll share some pretty incredible Cincinnati hug stories, and actually a couple of West Virginia hug stories too.
Good.
that I know about from when the time my brother was there. But yeah, I think our crew, our fans are pretty pumped. Obviously, it's close. We haven't had a road gaming conference that outside of UCF. I mean, but that's not like an easy travel game. Like
Memphis is an 8-hour drive. That was the closest, and West Virginia knows this. Like it was more for them, like the closest game.
But like we weren't like rivals football wise with Memphis. Like we
No, but I'm just saying that was the closest thing you could get to was 8 hours in Memphis.
So we're all very like. We obviously want to win a lot of games, but we're all very excited to play teams that, have pulses for fan bases and as Chad said, have more than 10, 15 people at the game. So that's what college football is all about is the atmosphere and the pageantry.
Well, that's why West Virginia went around for their non-conference and they started setting up like Maryland, Penn State, Pitt, Virginia Tech. We're just going to rotate through those 4 teams in non-conference for the next 10 years because fans were, again, they're like, cool, went to Texas once. I don't need to go again. You know what I want to do? I want to go to that team that's an hour and a half, 2-hour drive, and I sports hate all of them, and I really want to go. And I think the schools, who knows, maybe we'll get back to more of that, hopefully.
It would be nice. Or we could just add UConn and Gonzaga and just turn it into one really big disaster.
Great.
Is that your brother, Dave?
It is. First time on the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
He'll be coming in from Utah. So yeah, we got a whole crew coming in. But
Chris, I'll just say this about Hugs. It is not a coincidence that every year he has 1 or 2 kids that he recruits from roughly Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
So that he's got an excuse, 5 times to come go to the high school, rub elbows with everybody, and then go see his good friends that own the Holy Grail and hold court for a night or 2 there with all his, all the Bearcats of old, which used to be DeMar Johnson, who now, is hanging out in West Virginia as well. Love DeMar. If you need an in with DeMar, I got you. That's my guy.
He sounds like he's going to try to do some big time recruiting for West Virginia, especially going back to. Huggins doesn't need any help in Cincinnati, but he's going to try to help him out in DC from his high school days.
Well, DeMar was. I don't think people just don't know DeMar was the next big thing in DC. Kevin Durant looked up to DeMar Johnson. All those guys that grew up, every player, their dad in DC, every player in DC's dad grew up wanting to be DeMar Johnson, the way DeMar came up. He was a unicorn. He was 6'9". He played 2 guard. There weren't many like DeMar back then. And now, that's where you look at 2 guards in the NBA now, and they're all 6'7s, But DeMar's awesome. I was sad to see him go. It was a guy that I always loved. When you were around the program, getting a chance to catch up, and wouldn't have any idea. He was the number 6 pick in the draft, and all the accolades that he had. But those people in DC worshipped him. So he's got a lot of recruiting chops that should be able to help out in that region. I'm excited for him. He's a great dude.
I think West Virginia fans are excited too because he's jumped right into this recruiting stuff, and we'll see how it pans out.
All right, man. Well,
What else you
hey,
got?
that's all I have. Do you have anything else?
No, I think we're good.
Man made some time for us after some baseball, so I don't want to keep him too long, but we appreciate it, and we're definitely looking forward to the. I kind of thought it was going to end up being the Thanksgiving weekend game, the kind of turn the last game of the year into the rivalry, but the Bearcats get Kansas at home, so the West Virginia UC game the weekend before, but we'll definitely look forward to getting to West Virginia, and we thank you very much for jumping on and kind of giving us a good rundown of where Mountaineer football is right now.
I appreciate you having me on, guys. Thanks a lot.
And Chris, if it goes south, there's nothing better in this business than a coaching search. So
That's right.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me on.
There you go, Chris Anderson, earsports.com, and good of him to pop in. We weren't sure. He was looking at a time crunch with Little League Baseball, so awesome of him to pop on with us and get our first Team Ticker Big 12 preview of the summer. So we're gonna do what we can to get as many of those up and running here over the next couple weeks. TeamTicker.com, $50 off through Father's Day, and get it for $249. I got a message from somebody this week, said that they got their Team Ticker, and it is absolutely perfect addition to their man cave. So excited to continue working with them because it is a really cool product. So
it's pretty awesome.
We're gonna get one somewhere. Maybe we'll hang it from like that archway.
Yeah, sure.
Just hang it there.
Just have a cord just running right down the middle.
Well, yeah, you can take it down after the show. Like you don't have to have it up all Monday through Sunday. Like you can put it up and then take it down.
Yeah, I'll get to it. I'm a busy person. Got a lot of stuff going on right now.
We've all got vacation coming up, which
so there won't be a Big 12 preview next week.
No,
there won't be a Bearcat. There won't be a Bearcat. When was the last time we just didn't have a BCJ pod? I mean, we've shifted days, we've had guest hosts, but we're just not even going to have one next week.
Well, I don't know how we could.
No, there's no point.
So, did I tell you, Kelsey, they found out their time schedule for games in Orlando. They're in the afternoon wave. So, every day they play from 2 to 9:30.
2 to 9:30?
Yeah, that's their window for games. Wednesday, Thursday,
window.
Friday, Saturday. Yeah. So, middle, whites
awesome.
out any you can't do anything. By the time you get out of there at 9:30, you go get dinner, it's 11 o'clock at night. By the time you get back to the hotel, you got to get all the kids to sleep and then get ready to get up in the morning and do it over again. So yeah, it's gonna be a blast. It's not I'm not on vacation, Chelsea. Dave and Aaron are on vacation.
Mine is much more exciting than going to Florida to watch children play volleyball.
I also looked at the temperature. Guess what the lowest high temperature is going to be in Florida next week?
Oh, like 100?
92. There's one day where it's going to cool down to 92.
Sounds lovely. I'll be on the beach. I'll be on the beach drinking pina coladas, not thinking about you.
All right. Well, we got the West Virginia segment out of the way. What else would you like to talk about, David?
We have quite an official visitor weekend fired up in a few days. So we'll obviously get more. We'd like to wait till, whatever, Thursday, Friday, maybe even Saturday, maybe, who knows. But there has been quite a bit of buzz on Twitter of guys putting out their, graphics of when they're going to come. It sounds like at the Bearcat Caravan in Chicago last night that one of our members had the chance to speak with Coach Satterfield, and he was expecting around 14 guys, maybe 5 commits or so. I think we've pretty much nailed down all those guys on the official visit thread on the message board. No need to necessarily go through all of them because things happen. Guys change their mind. Things come up. They don't show, they're not able to make it. They add a guy but we got a good mix of commits and obviously uncommitted players, and you hope that some of the commits can get in the ears of the uncommitted and get a few commits. I would imagine there might be a couple. We don't have any idea who, but you got if you end up with 9 guys, you would hope that at least a few of those guys would be interested enough to jump on board. But again, it's still June. Like, guys are going to take other visits. I know there's been some conversation on the board of a couple commits possibly going on visits to NC State next weekend. I really don't have much of a problem with any of that. I don't think UC is not really in a position to be, telling guys to, well, if you go on another visit, consider yourself uncommitted. Guys should be able to do what they want to do. They're out there for a reason. I know you get the whole well, then just don't commit. It's easier said than done when you're talking about 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And I don't mind it because, you go to another place and then you see what else is out there and it proves to you made the right decision.
Or you say, okay, well, I think I need to reevaluate this. And that's fine. Because in the transfer portal era,
right,
if you're not 100% all in, you're going to end up in the transfer portal. That's just at the first sign of adversity, you're going to be like, you know what? I was kind of feeling something else anyway.
And they're already earmarking these dudes. You don't think the staff, Zach, Jack, those guys are like, okay, this guy's committed, but he's taking another visit. We need to note that because we need to be prepared that what if he does come here, but then he doesn't play? He's already shown us that he's willing to say he's committed and then look around. So we need to be prepared with potential transfers in his position or other potential high school recruits. Maybe we're not recruiting a certain position super hard right now because we have this guy committed, and now all of a sudden he's saying he might visit some other school. So, okay, you want to do that? All right, we're going to start recruiting some other, whatever.
Right.
Corners, wide receivers, running positions irrelevant. We're going to start looking at some other guys too that maybe we weren't as focused on because we thought you were locked in.
That's the nature of the beast. That's how this all works now. You can't. Everybody gets excited for the transfers that are on their way in, but they hate the guys that are leaving. It's a two-way street. Everybody is playing this game.
Oh, it always cracks me up. It's oh, this guy's committed, but he's visiting somewhere else. And then if I tweeted that high 3-star
Maryland commit
is visiting, we'd all be like, yeah, let's flip him, flip Philadelphia, flip, for you Always Sunny fans out there. It's you can't just be it can't only be cool when it's you doing it.
Yeah, there has to be the understanding of this stuff goes both ways. But should be a big visit weekend. Hopefully we'll have more of a confirmed list going into Friday in terms of we know this is exactly who's coming. One of the crazy parts now is the way things are going. If you put out there that you're visiting Cincinnati this weekend, the other schools involved are like, hey, why don't you come here instead?
Yeah,
our NIL's better than theirs is.
There's one player in particular, probably maybe not the highest rated recruit that is expected or anticipated to visit, but right up there, that I haven't seen anything publicly from him like the other guys with a graphic or a tweet. And I'm sure if I missed it, it would have been on the board. And I would have caught it, after the fact. So some dudes who knows? Maybe they don't want the fanfare or like this Xavier Henderson just showing up. Everyone's freaking out. When's he going to announce? maybe he's not. And that's more of a transfer thing than a high school thing. But it's funny, isn't it? It's quarterback Samaj Jones from Pennsylvania, who actually visited West Virginia last weekend, has some guys that he's familiar with from high school, either already on West Virginia or also like being recruited by West Virginia. It sounds like he's also interested in Oklahoma. I'm not really understanding that one. He's supposed to go on a visit next weekend there, but they've already got a QB in this class, and they signed Jackson Arnold in last year's class, who was one of, if not the best high school quarterbacks in the country last year, 5-star. Like, he might beat out Dylan Gabriel by the time UC plays him. So I'm not really sure where that puts Samaj Jones. So it could be an old school Khalil Lewis, West Virginia, UC recruiting battle.
Khalil Lewis. Ran into him at an IHOP one day. Him and Devin Gray just happened to be in the seat. They got seated in the seat behind us.
Is he like the last? This is funny because for the whole Fickle era, it's never happened. Is he like the last guy that like was a true like signing day commitment? Like didn't know where he was gonna go that UC got? Like it feels, I mean, I'm sure there's somebody else in there, but we've joked about it forever. Decembers are boring. Like we know exactly who's coming every year.
Yeah. He was, the question you always have, though, is like, did the staff know and they just, like, slow played their hand because they didn't want to jinx it or...
But they never even told us.
I know, but there have been times where they're like, man, this one's so weird. Like, yeah, we think we're going to get him, but I'm not even telling anybody because...
And I'm not counting years where there's a coaching change, like with a couple of the Louisville guys, like...
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels like that one was was maybe the last.
It was up
time.
there. It was up there. What else you got?
The Godfather's being contacted by agents, apparently.
I mean, they all have agents now.
But I mean, I think by actual agents.
Yeah.
Like Drew Rosenhaus style agents, not marketing agents.
Yeah, but a lot of these guys have legit agents. They're just not allowed to.
Oh, I know. I just like this tweet. Like, basically, leave me alone. I'm focusing. I'm worried about the season.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, you always knew as long as Sauce could back it up, he was going to be a star because his nickname was Sauce. Like, splashy. Like, what are nicknames now? J-Dub, T-Rich, like, nicknames suck now.
Dude, UC's got all the good nicknames. Sauce. Now they have the Godfather. They got the Gravy is committed.
Yep.
So, I mean, we need some more food. Turkey,
right,
we need a turkey. We need to get into Texas and get us like a turkey leg. Jimmy Turkey Leg Johnson.
I was going to say Johnson. That just rolls. Turkey Leg Johnson.
Starting at defensive end for the Bearcats.
But, I mean, you just knew. So, like, he's the Godfather, and his name is literally Don Corleone.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if he's good, like, everybody's going to want a piece of that because it's marketable, and he's got a big personality. PFF had a good interview with him, just kind of discussing, his rise and what he's about. And I don't know, they're going to come out of the woodwork because if he has a year this year like he had last year, he's going to be a first-round pick, I would assume. I mean, or close.
Yeah, I think he plays a bad position to be a high draft pick. I mean, you saw Mazi Smith from Michigan end up being a first round pick at that kind of true nose player. But yes, I mean, he's absolutely going to be, if he does something similar against better competition, he absolutely will be in a position to be one of, I'll just say like right now, like a top 50 type player. I have to give props to Clifton Ave on Twitter when I tweeted about everybody this morning.
Yeah.
He sent a good picture. It said introducing the Godfather's agent Tom Hagen with a picture of Tom from the Godfather. He needs, I need to talk to Dante. He needs a consigliere. Maybe I could, I am Italian. Maybe I could be his consigliere to kind of keep the vultures and sharks at bay while he focuses on football.
You could go get him his Cholitos with fries.
I mean, sure.
Yeah, that's what that's a consigliere does a lot of things, Dave.
Yeah,
it's not just keeping the vultures at bay. Sometimes it's going to Skyline, making a Skyline run for the crew.
Yeah.
Camp is rolling.
Looks like everybody's, to our knowledge, has arrived.
I think there might be a couple transfers coming that get here this weekend. I still think there's one that
the high school kids.
Oh yeah, that was last weekend.
Yeah,
and now there might be a couple transfers coming in. There's still one that's not public, isn't there? I think
that's committed that we know about. That
I think so.
I don't. You're gonna have to tell me this one offline or text me.
I thought it was when we talked. Maybe I missed a commitment. I could have missed a commitment.
Yeah.
Anyhow, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Yeah, we need to get Nico back on soon just to see.
That plan is. I talked to him last week, and I think he's going to hop on the BBP after I get back from Florida. I think that's the plan. So, they should have everybody on campus by this weekend. The whole roster here, and in the weight room and doing summer workouts and kind of trending towards getting things ready to go. I know Keegan was on campus today, had a nice long conversation with Emory Jones. He is working on an Emory Jones feature.
Nice.
For BCJ here. He's got a couple other people to talk to and craft the story. So hopefully we're going to need content for next week because nobody's going to be around.
We're gonna get content. We're gonna get like 5 commitments.
I know.
Colorado's gonna join the fucking Big 12.
Yeah.
Something else ridiculous is going to happen. UC will get several basketball, like out of the blue basketball story will pop up. It will absolutely happen when you and I are both like, not even that we're not like around, like we're not like really even capable of like giving it proper coverage.
I'm also on vacation.
Right. Yeah, all three of us are. Keegan, you're in charge. You've been here for a month. You got this week.
Figure it out. Yes.
Is there another camp tomorrow?
Is.
Yes. I will be on radio, so I will not be there.
Is it not a night camp?
It's a mid-afternoon camp. So, and then there's
will Keegan be there?
That's the plan, but there's other stuff happening tomorrow that we have to kind of.
Right, we'll get to that.
So I haven't had a whole lot. It's one of those weeks that's infuriating because the first 3 days of the week there wasn't a lot really going on. And then you have Thursday where I agreed to radio
months ago.
Yeah. And then you have a football camp. I think there might be like a little open gym action I could have probably hit up tomorrow while I was on campus. And then another thing tomorrow evening. And it all happens on the one day this week I have radio. So. Yeah.
Hardest working man in Cincinnati.
Well, it's just a pain in the ass. Can we spread this shit out a little bit more? It's not about being hardworking. It's about I had 3 days where I didn't really have anything going on.
I mean, you should have known that Tyler McKinley was going to announce a commitment somewhere when you agreed to do radio 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, and I should have called and told them, hey, you can't do camp that day.
Right. They probably already had the schedule out. You could have,
Yeah, I know, but I would have need to tell them, like, you're going to have to move it to Friday.
It's just poor planning on your part.
It is. You're right.
You're
right.
I don't think you and I have talked about this. You and Aaron might have on a nightcap. What are your thoughts on
Ellie De La Cruz?
No, absolutely not. What are your thoughts on the betting line win total going to 5.5 for the Bearcats? Do you think it's a correction? I think it's a correction that a lot of bettors have now exploited, and that's why it's gone up. Or do you think
I'm sure it's gone up because everybody bet the
over? That's what I mean. Like, everybody looked at it and was like, 4.5. That's a sucker's bet. Why would I not take the over, even if I don't love their chances? Like, you're basically saying like they're going to go 4-8 if you're going to take the under. Like, I think it should have opened at 5.5. And now,
yeah, I think it probably should have too, but I also still wouldn't touch it. Like, I wouldn't touch it at 4.5. I'm not touching it.
I would have crushed it at the over at 4.5, just because that's the smarter play. Like,
yeah, but you don't have to bet.
No, but I'm saying I would have done that if I was inclined.
If you have to bet, yeah, I would have bet the over at 4.5.
I'll be interested to see, we'll get into it and try not to.
I'm just saying, you're allowed to not be comfortable and just go on.
Oh, for sure.
Gonna touch that one. I don't.
For sure.
I said, somebody asked me at 24/7, like, what do you think is the range for the record? And I said, I think it's somewhere 6-7 wins. But if you told me they were 4-8, I wouldn't I would be okay. They probably lost a bunch of close games. If you told me they were 8-4, I would say they probably won a bunch of close games. Like, I don't have like a wild variance either way on what I think is worst case and what I think is best case. I think it's all like this.
There's a lot of plausible plausible explanations for all of it. Like, you tell me they only won 4 games, I'd be like, yeah, I could see that. Like, Emery doesn't play as good as we hope, and they get some unfortunate injuries and they lose some close games. Or you tell me they won 8 games, I'm like, all right, Emery was better than we thought. Some of the transfers made bigger impacts than we were expecting. They were relatively healthy, and they stole a couple games that maybe they weren't supposed to win. Like, all of that is both of those things are totally reasonable.
Well Nipper, right? Like, or they just played well at Nipper.
Yeah. Like, they only lost to Oklahoma at home.
Right.
There's 6 wins.
Yeah.
Like,
so, yeah. Like, it's just, it's, I don't know that I've experienced a season where I'm this unsure about anything. Does that make sense?
We're in a brand new league, and we're doing
brand new
coaching staff.
Like 3/4 of the roster is new.
Roster turnover all in 1 year.
Yeah. So
we've never really done that. We've had new coaches. We've had large amounts of roster turnover, but we haven't done it butted up against a much higher level of week in and week out competition.
D'Antonio was here the last year in Conference USA, wasn't he?
Now you're trying to make me think. I don't know offhand.
I believe he was.
Probably.
Because Gino didn't play in the Big East.
No, he did not.
And that was D'Antonio's first year, was Gino's senior year. So yeah, he had a year to like ramp up to it, right?
Yeah.
Satterfield's what do the kids say now? 10 toes down?
Sure.
That's it creates quite the variance on what's possible. Quite the variance on when you're making a prediction. Like, when we do the preview show, just like after camp, like, I have no idea what I'm going to say. And generally we at this point, we generally have a pretty good idea, right? On where we think things are heading.
Right.
Like, going into the season. I have no clue, man. No, it's that's why these summer workouts
are interesting to try to, talk to, whether it's Nico, the coaches at these camps, get an idea of what kind of what they're seeing and hearing, and then obviously Higher Ground will be probably. I mean, I don't want to be hyperbolic, but like most anticipated Higher Ground that I can remember.
Yeah.
I mean, 2021 was highly anticipated because we thought they were going to be really, really good.
But Higher Ground was awful. Higher Ground sucked.
We knew we were excited to go and be able to watch them play, but we knew who was starting at literally every position.
And pretty much who was the backup at every position.
Yeah. So it wasn't a whole bunch of intel to be gathered or newsy type things or tracking dudes like, oh, this guy's had 2 or 3 really good days in a row. It's like, oh, great, that guy's had 2 or 3 really good days in a row. He's still not going to see the field this year.
Like what? Like safety was one. Like, okay, we should be worried about safety because Wiggins and Forrest went to the NFL, but Hicks and Cook are taking over, and we both feel really good about those 2 guys being back there. Like even the stuff where there were questions, there were answers that were like, in the realm of like you didn't have to ask the question, I guess.
I mean, like this year, you could go each day for a week and be like, I'm only going to watch offensive line today.
Right.
And then tomorrow I'm only going to watch receivers. And then the next day I'm only going to watch defensive line. Even though we know a lot of the defensive line, they're playing in a new scheme. So what does that look like?
And what is Justin Watley ready to make a jump? Is Dominique Perry ready to play 40% of the snaps behind Corleone?
Yeah.
Because they're not asking Corleone to play 80% of the snaps. Like, that's just poor usage of the guy. So, like, are they ready there? Who is there somebody that steps up that's going to be that outside edge rusher? It's everything.
Yes, I'm very much looking forward to it. It will be here in roughly a little over 2 months. So,
yeah, I mean, we're at that point now. We're into June. So, like, get through camp season. And then, you know.
I mean, what are we like? What is it? September 2nd? So we are just under 3 months.
Yeah,
from
3 months from kickoff.
EKU.
Which is, it's been weird, Dave, because it's been a really, like, this is what's been odd to me. It's been, and obviously my brain has been in a different place than where it has been every year of the 16 years that I've done this. But does it feel for everything that's happening that it's also been quiet at the same time? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, it does. I think things have hit like in very like short bursts with a lot of stuff.
And then there's a lull. And then there's a short burst with a lot of stuff. And then there's a lull. Like, it's been weird.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, you had the coaching change and everything that came with that. And you had signing day, which was clear, like, almost right after that.
Well, let's not forget, you had hiring a staff and then hiring a second staff.
Yeah, hiring half of a new staff. And
to your new staff.
Transfer portal and it just feels like there's like, and that slowed down obviously, but like it was for a while, it was like, it was just a very steady stream of like, oh, here's one thing today.
Right.
Like here's a transfer today. And then here's a transfer today. Oh, and then here's a high school commit. And then here's another transfer. So it was like, it just kept.
It's like the faucet is just on drip.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that's the perfect analogy to how this offseason has been.
And then in 2 months, it's going to be on, flooding the house stage.
Right. Like, do you have a sump pump?
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a lot. Like, there's going to be a lot that we just don't know. And, some of that is we were in that weird spot where everything with Kelly was happening and Keegan had not graduated yet. So I had the guy hired behind the scenes that was going to be able to help me out with a lot of things, but he couldn't start yet because he's finishing college and apparently you have work to do. I don't know. And it's inconvenient to drive from Bloomington to Cincinnati all the time.
I don't see the big deal.
Right? Come on. But yeah, it's been a weird like flow to this offseason.
It has.
But here we are.
But no, now we'll get some official visit weekends. We'll get some more camps. Then we'll have some basketball, off-season stuff. And then all of a sudden we'll be at football season. It'll be here. We always say it. It'll be here before you know it. And then all of a sudden it's here.
Yep. Anything basketball you want to hit on?
Oh, well, we'll get to basketball, but we got to talk the great conference realignment stuff that happened.
Well, I
today.
figured we usually do that as its own separate entity.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you wanted to count that as football or just.
No, I mean it affects everything. So
right, that's true.
Let's save that for. We usually save that for the end. Basketball. What would you like to know? There hasn't been a little birdie season really yet. They've been doing a lot of stuff as team workouts, which according to the NCAA, God forbid, not allowed to see a team workout. But I have been, in contact with a lot of my sources that have the intel that we're looking for. What would you like to know? Jameel Reynolds looks like an aircraft carrier. That is a monster of a human being.
Hopefully he looks like an aircraft carrier patrolling the paint this year and not in a jumpsuit sitting next to.
I don't know, man. I assume they're going to be eligible until they're not. Maybe that's an error on my part.
I mean, I think that's thinking based on how things have gone. Now they're claiming that it's the old days are over and blah 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 blah. We'll see. I don't know if we've really got into that doomsday scenario yet. I don't know if we want to. What happens if both?
I mean, I don't like. We'll talk about it when we have to.
Right. Exactly. There's no point in talking about it now. I would just say, what has been the feedback? I mean, I would say the feedback just on the newer guys in general. We know CJ can shoot. That's that's not. We're not breaking any news there. I would say more of like Seamus and the 2 point guards are of the interest to my ears.
The thing that I've heard is that they've done a lot using Seamus and CJ together. They have tried to pair them. And the two of them are extremely advanced in terms of basketball IQ. So you can do a lot of different things. And I've heard a little bit that they've had Seamus kind of working out with the point guards at times. Not because he's going to play point guard, but they do want him, because of his skill set, initiating offense. So when you're in the half court, why not have a third-year guy kind of starting the offense when he can pass and shoot and put it on the floor and do the things he can do? So they've been kind of using him in some of those roles early to test, is he going to be ready for that? And this is what I talked about when I said that when Micah left, there's probably going to be some experimentation in June and July to figure out, do we have to go get another guard? Or do we have this guy that kind of has the ability when necessary, we're going to play through you offensively. That doesn't mean he's the point guard, but it does mean he's going to be given the opportunity to initiate offense. And I think that's very interesting in terms of trying to maximize his skill set. From what I've heard on the point guard side, those two dudes are extremely competitive, and they have been getting after it.
Well, I don't know much about Day, but none of that surprises me about young Edgerrin James Jr.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard about him, he's got, and this is hard for a freshman, so I'm sure it's going to take some time, but they can see the alpha qualities. Like, he's vocal, he's telling guys to get to their spots, he's, being a guy that's pushing people in workouts and in individual drills, getting on guys. I don't think it's full blown like, oh, he's acting like he's been here for 5 years, or it's not that, but it is just some of that natural stuff coming out of him that is, what happens when you're the son of a Hall of Famer. Like, that goes one of two ways, right? Either you're a shithead because you're the son of a Hall of Famer, or you've got the traits that made your dad a Hall of Famer. And
Right.
Everything I've heard is he has the traits, at least in terms of work ethic, and he's not sleeping in, he's not missing 8 a.m. breakfast or the things that I think it's fair when you say, like, a kid has grown up with a bunch of money available to him, a bunch of the ability to be lazy, right? And I say this as somebody, if I had the ability to be lazy, I would be so lazy. Right?
Yes, it's like the the people that are like I don't want to win the lottery because, like, what would I do all day? And I'd be like, I'd be very content doing nothing.
Nothing. I would do nothing. I would have
what are you gonna do today? I don't know, nothing.
There would be a shaded area next to said pool, and I would be in that shaded area next to said pool all day, every day. Like, that's just what I would do. So the early return on Jizzle is that he's about the right things, and he's in the gym all the time. He's working. He's trying to get better, and him and Day have had a pretty healthy back and forth so far. Now it's 2 weeks in, so, like, let's not get out over our skis, but you want to see that. And if you look at some of the stuff we're hearing from the Monster Factory about Day-Day's athleticism, the kid's an elite athlete.
What are we hearing from the Monster Factory about Day-Day's athleticism?
39 and a half standing vertical.
What was Aziz's in that video that Mike put out?
Don't know. Like, he was one fingertip away from 12 feet standing vertical.
Like 4 foot vertical.
I mean, his chin was above the rim in that video. Like, he's a freak. He's an alien.
I know the feeling all too well.
Yeah, like, we would lower the rim down to 8 feet, and you would jump off a trampoline, and
I'm still not sure if I could grab the rim at 8 feet.
I could touch it. I could touch a 10-foot rim. I couldn't grab it, but I could.
Not me.
So yeah, I mean, the early returns are good. I think hearing that Seamus is getting some time with the point guards, or at least, like, doing some workouts with that group, I think that's probably the most interesting thing so far this summer, other than the really, like, I told Aaron the other night, they remind me of were you in Nashville when they played Florida State? Did you go down for that?
No.
I
was in Nashville the other time.
What time? I don't know what you're talking about. When I walked out before the game and Florida State was, like, warming up, it was like, I've never seen anything as massive as this team. Like, they were just huge. And that's how this team looks, 6'11", 6'11", 7'1", 7'1". Like, Odie is 6'9" and looks like a guard standing next to some of these guys. They're just physically imposing. Now, the question will be, can you still win at an elite level playing like old school too big basketball?
I guess my question is, and I might get shouted down for this. Are they trying? Like, yes, they're trying to but this year specifically, like, is this maybe the best way to go about it? But maybe not the best way if you are truly trying to win at compete for a Big 12 championship, make a legitimate tournament run. Is it not the best way to do that? But is it maybe the best way to win a bunch of close games and get yourself into the tournament?
Potentially. I mean, I don't think
those two things have to be different, but I'm just wondering, like.
So here's the thing, Dave. This is what was like really strange about this offseason, this particular offseason, and what happened. I think they definitely went into the portal like we have to get a big. I don't think they had any like intention of we got to go get a guy that's 6'11", 280 pounds, and we have to go get a guy that's 7'1", like freak shot blocker.
Right.
I think it just kind of happened.
Right.
Like you in the talent acquisition game, if an Aziz Bandago becomes available and you have the connections to get him, it would be malpractice to be like, we're good.
Right. I mean, there's a difference between like, oh yeah, we got 9 6'4" guys because all the great 6'4" guys, shooting guards, wanted to come here.
Right.
And we just took all of them and we'll figure it out. Versus like, we wanted one big, we got 2. Like it's a little bit different than, they're not the same thing.
But they also got 2 scoring wings, 2 offensive-minded wings that they had to get, that they had to replace. Now, again, the question is going to be, was the staff right on Jizzle and Day-Day? Did they make the proper evaluations and go land 2 guys that are going to be able to elevate this team's performance when it's, 62-60 with 3 minutes left in Lubbock?
Yeah.
And we won't know that until we see it.
And you're trying to end a 2-game losing streak.
Right, because you just played Kansas at home and you lost by 3.
Kansas State or something like you went.
And you went to Oklahoma State and you lost in overtime. And now you got to stop the bleeding so that you don't have a 3-game losing week. Like, that's, we're going to be talking about that until we see them show that they can fight that off.
I think yes, and there's, I think I'm the things you've mentioned with Day-Day, what I've seen from Jizzle, like, I just think that their overall athleticism and the things that they seem to do well already will at least at worst give them a adequate baseline.
Sure.
To where, like, I would be stunned if they both just stunk this year.
I would too.
Like, we just can't do anything offensively because our point guards suck. Like, that would surprise me. Like, are they going to be first, second, third team all Big 12? Probably not, maybe. But, like, I think there's enough talent on the roster to give them a chance in February to be in contention to make the tournament with adequate to solid point guard play.
I agree.
And I think I think that's a reasonable expectation in June without really, like, I just think they have that level of ability already that, I'll use just fine. They'll be fine. What does fine mean? How many games does fine win or lose you? I don't have any idea. But look,
you want to know it can happen? Oklahoma State had an incredibly talented roster.
Yeah, and they all got hurt. and
And they never gelled. They because of
Right.
the injuries and guys in and out of the lineup, it never clicked. And they were the second worst team in the league.
They lost a shit ton of close games, and
yeah. So can these 2 point guards win you a bunch of close games? We're gonna find out. Tyler McKinley, 6:30 tomorrow night.
What odds would you put on him announcing to the Bearcats?
Pretty good.
Who do you think are the UC's? Obviously, he's announcing of amongst, I think, 7 schools. Xavier, Ohio State, Virginia Tech. I'm trying to remember. I'm not looking at it. Xavier, Ohio State, Virginia Tech, UC, Michigan State, Alabama, Tennessee. Is that right?
I think that's right, yeah.
Okay. Taking UC aside, who is the 1 or 2 schools that if he did announce for them, you would not be surprised about?
Ohio State or Xavier. I've just always gotten the feel for Tyler that he's going to play close to home.
Okay.
I think he is done, and he's likely going to be back at Linkier Prep. Like, I think this is his get away from home, right? Like, go to a place that's one of the best prep schools in the country.
Lot going on in Branson.
Great golf in Branson.
I mean,
right?
I can talk to him about Big Cedar Lodge. I mean, maybe I don't know if he's been out there or not, but yeah.
I don't know if he's a golfer. I don't know. Can you get clubs at that? Like, what does a club look like for a guy that's that?
Michael
size?
Jordan was pretty good at 6'6", so I mean he's 6'9". Like, that's not a huge difference.
That's a big difference.
Not for golf clubs.
Okay.
I mean, he's not going to Dick's and buying them off the rack.
No, he's not getting rack clubs. They don't make those, right? He would miss the ball every time, just swinging over.
No, he would just be like, he would be an L bent
Right.
over to trying to get to the ball. But I know there's been a lot of talk about him, like, because he's been a target for a while. What are some things about his game that you think are translatable kind of instantly? It's very hard to project and say, like, this guy's going to become this in 2-3 years or whatever, but like,
he's got a lot of skill. He can handle the ball adequately for somebody that size. He can pass really well, both in the open court and in the half court. He rebounds it well in and out of area.
That's what I was going to ask you. Does he like
He's got a good motor?
Does he mind mixing it up, and is he a consistent rebounder?
Yes, he is. Yeah. Do I think he's like, Justin Jackson that was just, trying to eat somebody's arm off to get a rebound? Probably not.
Well, he's not an uber athlete, right?
No, he's a good athlete, but he's not like a freak athlete. I would say this, like, here's the hardest part about doing the evaluation stuff and the scouting stuff. It's when you've seen a kid as much as I've seen Tyler. Because you compartmentalize the good stuff, right? When you're first watching a kid, the good stuff stands out. And you identify, okay, here's this thing that I think that he needs to work on. Here's this thing that I think is at this level, but could probably go up a little bit to here. And then you watch. I've been watching Tyler for since he was at 15 and under.
And then you don't pay attention to the good stuff anymore.
The good stuff, the good stuff is checked off. You know the good stuff.
Yeah. And
then you just focus on. So I've talked a lot about, I think he needs to do a better job creating space at the rim, scoring over length. Because I think that has been one of the few things that I want to see him get better at. He has definitely taken a jump since he went to Linkier. Because you have to. You're playing with huge dudes out there on a nationally, like, one of the top 3, high school situations in the country. So he's gotten better at it, but it's still, I think he needs to do a little bit better job when he gets position and he's got somebody on his back. Kind of Danny Fortson, how Danny was always able to, even though he played below the rim, you couldn't get to him.
Danny played below the rim, but nobody ever blocked the shot.
Right. Like, I think Tyler needs to continue developing that because he's not going to finish. He's not Aziz Bandago, where he's going to catch the ball, turn, and just dunk on you like immediately. He's going to be scoring with post moves, with hooks, with pivots and spins and layups. And you need to make sure, like when you beat a guy with a move, that you are able to hold him off when he recovers. If you put a post move on a shot blocker, a guy that's 6'11" with a 7'3" wingspan, if you're slow after the move, or if you don't do a good job keeping distance between his body and his ability to get to your shot, then it can become a problem. And I think Tyler has gotten better at that. I think he can continue to improve there. But I also know I have to calibrate. I am nitpicking. Like, right. I am at a point where his game is good enough that you say, okay, like these are the 2 or 3 things that I really need to see. But he can shoot the 3. Like, do I think he's going to be a 40% 3-point shooter in college? No. But at his size, if he's a 34% 3-point shooter,
he's a threat.
You have to guard him. He can pass. He can rebound. He runs the floor really well. He does a really good job getting out on the wing in transition and being able to play downhill and get a basket, because he's a big guy that you know what, when you watch big guys run the floor and you see a guard throw him the ball 18 feet from the basket and you just know it's a turnover.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you just know, like, you can't throw him the ball there. You have to wait.
He's barely thrown it and you're yelling, like, why did you?
No. That's not Tyler.
It's not his fault he dropped it. You should know that he wasn't going to catch it.
Yeah, he wasn't going to catch it. When you threw it, there was a 0.0% chance that he was going to catch the ball. But you can throw it to Tyler and he can take 2 dribbles and get you a dunk or a layup. Like that part, for a guy like Wes that wants to play in the open court, is really important. So there is a lot to like about Tyler. I smack myself in the hand sometimes because you get caught up in, like, okay, you've gotten this much better, and I still think there's like another level here to get to. So I talk about that, and then people take it, I don't want to say the wrong way, because it's what I'm talking about. So they take it as, I don't think he can score at the rim, or I don't think I talked about.
No, it's not that. It's he's a top 50-ish player. Like, he's not a sure thing NBA guy. He's got things, he's got things he needs to work on, but he's also like an 18-year-old. Mm-hmm. Like, he's not anywhere near a finished product. So if you're not anywhere near a finished product, it's not unreasonable to discuss the deficiencies that are in his game as an 18-year-old. Those aren't deficiencies that are in your game as a 27-year-old. Like, if he was that good, he'd be a top 5 player in the country and not going to UC more than likely. Right. I mean, like, let's just be real about it. Like,
I don't even say that anymore. Like,
well, I was going to get to there. We got a little, like, we're trending in that direction. Like,
got to land one, but
right. Jizzle was 60, Rayvon's 70, Tyler's 56. Like, we're starting to, make a nice, 3 in a row is a trend. Yeah. Of
if they can get Jace is right around 70, top 50. Well,
I'll believe. Yeah, if he doesn't go to Michigan State, I'll be. That's just me. Like, that'd be great if they could, but like, I'm just going to assume until it's one of those deals that, like, the dude's going to go to.
I get it. There's not many of them. Like if you look around, it doesn't.
But they're in for other guys too in that range as well.
Yeah.
So it's like they're starting to build the port, just like in football. The Portland basketball is always going to be a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And yes, there might be that time where you take a kid that's around 100 because he fits a specific need, or you just really like his game, or
you think the scouting services
right
don't know shit
or wrong. Exactly.
I've got this guy as a top 40 kid, and the scouting places have him 87th or whatever.
Right. But if you can start having a high school,
I can think of two of those
incoming high school classes that are all we'll call it top 70.
Yeah.
And then you have some success in the Big 12. Maybe now it becomes like a couple, 3 years in a row of top 50.
Well, what we talked about for a long time, if you can just get 2 top 100 kids a class, like your roster is in very good shape.
Yeah,
and
because especially in college basketball, I think the hit rate on quality college basketball players that are top 70 is much higher than in football.
I agree. 100% I agree.
The top end guys in football seem to always make it. The Bijan Robinsons, the Caleb Williams, like those guys.
But from 30 to 100, it's a crapshoot.
It totally is. Playing time isn't what I wanted. I transfer. I blow up my knee. I'm not the same guy. Like
your body didn't develop like everybody thought. Like, one of the big things in football, what do we always hear in football? That kid's going to be able to put on good weight.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with, 17-year-olds and trying to project in a football sense what they look like at 20.
Yeah, I mean, like
21.
Tyler McKinley's 6'9", 220-ish. I don't know what the real numbers are. Like, he's not all of a sudden going to become 7'4", 300 pounds.
Right.
Like,
right.
we kind of know what he is.
Already roughly in the vicinity of what he's going to look like in college.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case in football. It's just not.
At any position really outside of like quarterback, and that's still, there's some development there. I mean, nobody comes in. That's why you don't have the one and done, and that's why, the high school to the pros, or even the one and done. It's like, you
need 3 years to develop.
The most developed, best developed high school players in football are in no way, shape, or form even in the same planet ready to compete with the upper echelon of college players, let alone NBA players or NFL players. And with high school and college basketball, I think, maybe Tyler and Jizzle and Rayvon don't become stars, but there's a very low probability that they're all just going to they're all going to fizzle out.
Yeah, exactly. Pangos camp was a very good week for Bearcat targets at Pangos. Tyler had a good week. Flory was, I think, the co-MVP of the camp.
Are coaches allowed to be there for that?
No.
What was the thing I saw Andrew Slater tweeted? It looked like it was like an island or something. The gym looked horrible. Where was that?
I think they were in Mexico. That was the FIBA 16 under Americas.
Okay.
So they were playing Puerto Rico. They won comfortably.
You mean Puerto Rico isn't a global power of 16 and under basketball?
That's correct.
I couldn't believe it.
But Chad Dollar was there the first half of the week, and I think Andre Morgan is going to be there over the weekend. So that's
nice little vacation.
No, that's not how that works. I wish it was.
Oh, I know. You go to Puerto Rico to sit in the gym all day.
Yeah, you go to Puerto Rico and you're in the gym from 9:30 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night.
Sounds awful.
Yeah, I don't even want the but I think they're in Mexico,
right?
Not Puerto Rico.
They were playing Puerto Rico.
They were playing Puerto Rico. I think the tournament's in Mexico.
Have the tournament in Des Moines then.
Right, I agree. Because there's nothing worse. We used to go every year. There was a tournament in Hampton, Virginia, which Virginia Beach is right there.
Yeah.
And literally it was an incredible tournament. And there were games that you had to watch from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. every day. And the beach is You could be at the beach in 20 minutes. And you can't. Like, we found, at one point, I found a hotel that was on, like, the bay or whatever that's right there. And I would just get that hotel and work with the door open because you could see onto the outside the hotel, and there was just the bay. And I was like, if I can't go to the beach, at least when I come home at night, I can look at it. It sucks. It's the worst. Like, you're in a tropical location and you don't get to go hang out at the bar and have drinks with an umbrella in them.
Right.
So, yeah. But really good week at Pangos. Jace Richardson was the MVP of the top 60 game. Tyler had a good week. Flory was outstanding. Jalen Reese was there, which that's a name that you need to get familiar with in 2025. Seeing him get a Pangos invite is very encouraging for a young kid.
Is that Steve's kid? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Plays for the same AAU program as Jizzle, and his dad is Steve Reese, who is from Cincinnati and has many, 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 many ties to the area. And so I would keep a very close eye on.
Well, he
2025
is
point guard Jalen
currently the 24/7 composite number 60 player in the country, the number 8 point guard nationally.
Yeah, I think the Bearcats have a very good chance on that one in 2025. So it was a great week at Pangos. That's an awesome camp. I hate that it's all the way out there in LA or in Vegas. I don't know where it was at this year. I guess LA. The guy that runs it's awesome, Dinos. I would like to be able to get out there every year, but that's not a cheap one. Although, Dave, if this is how Wes is going to recruit, where there's 7 guys for me to go, cover at Pangos, then Aaron's going nuts because the Reds with a walk-off home run. I'm upset because it was Will Benson and not Ellie De La Cruz. All right, young Dave. Realignment, go. What a how are you even keeping up with this at this point? That's what I need to know.
I mean, not greatly, probably is the best way to put it, because there's a lot of nonsense. But clearly today, the Pac-12 got tired of everybody talking bad about them, so they told their show.
So they lied.
Well, no, they didn't lie. I mean, they told the
Arizona AD basically said they lied.
Yeah. They also, so for those that don't know, earlier today, John Canzano, one of our favorites, he started this about that the Pac-12 had agreed on the language of their grant of rights, which would include equal sharing of media revenue and
performance-based sharing of revenue.
No, equal sharing of media revenue and performance-based college football playoff distribution. So basically the same thing the ACC was doing. They weren't going to touch the media part of it, but all the other stuff was eat what you kill. And basically saying, like, schools will sign it if and when there's a TV deal that they're happy with. And I just had to laugh because it's like, I sent out a tweet, and I also heard a great analogy. But also, I said, like, hey, guys, we looked each other in the eyes and shook hands and agreed to this thing that is 100% dependent on this other thing actually happening to the level that we all want it to happen at. So,
you know what it sounds like, Dave?
What?
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, I can hear. Yes, but it's like the most. So there's no news in it. It was it was a news leak that had no news.
Yeah.
It reminded me of like 10 people or 5 couples getting together and being like, we all want to go to dinner, but we don't know where we're going to go. Like that's really nice, guys, that you all decided to sign the grant of right, agreed to sign the grant of rights, and you agreed to unequal, distribution of funds based on performance. If and when the thing that actually pays you the money to do that happens.
Right.
So, you had your Stuart Mandels, your Canzanos, your Wilners, everybody that, shills for the Pac-12 saying like, oh, look how great this is, blah, blah, blah. And then you have your Big 12 people and your, what I would like to call
rational, normal people.
Well, higher intellect members of society being like, yeah, that's great, but you don't have a TV deal, so it's kind of pointless. Not kind of pointless, it is pointless. Like, it's like, how many business dealings, how many businesses have conversations with their partners or just co-employees where it's like, okay, if this happens, then we're going to do this. They don't announce it every time they have this conversation. Like,
right.
Hey guys, we're going to hire this guy if this deal comes through, because then we're going to have extra money, to make this move. Or we're going to, if this deal comes in, then that is going to give us the ability to go do this deal. They don't tell anybody that that they might do something.
Right.
If this other thing actually happens. It's just wild. Well, then the Arizona president is on the Feinbaum show basically saying, like, I'm, paraphrasing. He's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. He's like, I saw this tweet from this, he didn't name names or anything, but he's like, I saw this tweet from this media person and I haven't agreed to anything. So it's like, okay, well then which one is, who's accurate here?
Well, we know the Johns have been about as reliable as a Jerry Springer check to a woman of the night.
I think it's really just the one John. Wilner, I think, actually does, like, legit.
He got caught up, like, associating with the other John.
I think he does, like, legitimate, like, work.
Yeah.
I mean, some of his comments and stuff are still ridiculous, but I think he actually does stuff.
He's a legitimate journalist, sure. He broke USC and UCLA to the Big Ten.
Arizona President Robert Robbins told CBS Sports he has not been informed of a finalization of the grant of rights or agreement to share media rights. I absolutely know nothing about this information, but hopefully I will learn the facts soon. Asked if decision could be made without his consent, he said no, which that's obvious. But it's I'm trying to go through some stuff right now, but it's just like, and then the guy talks. Then the president of Arizona mentions how they're very committed to the Pac-12, blah blah blah, and then the media rights and all the. He thinks it's going to be done soon. I mean, this guy is also the same one that has basically had like an April. I think he had like a tax day deadline. That was almost 2 months ago. None of them have any idea what's going on. Pete Thamel put out an article tonight. Again, the flirtations of Colorado with the Big 12, with officials from each side meeting in person. Sources told ESPN has also put Arizona more in focus. The Buffaloes remain the Pac-12's biggest potential flight risk, and if they jump, Arizona will emerge as a logical partner, both because of geography and the Wildcats' powerhouse basketball program. I think all the attention is on Colorado. I think Arizona is more than happy to let that attention be on them. I think they're looking at it as a way to not.
They don't want to have to. Arizona doesn't want to have to move.
I just don't think they want
will.
to be the one that starts it either.
Right, that's fair.
You know, he said that the Arizona president said that they're under no obligation by the Arizona Board of Regents to do something in lockstep with Arizona State. He mentioned that him and their president are very, very tight. He does not see them not doing anything together, but like he said that if we wanted to leave, there's nothing that the overarching Arizona Board of Regents could do to stop us. Very similar stuff to like UCLA leaving California. I think they're paying some amount of money possibly to the other state of California colleges, but they're not going to be able to keep them from doing anything. Let's see what else. I don't know. I just like it's all funny to me at this point. I'm still like, will you ever sign a media rights deal? I don't know.
Yeah, like when like it at some point it's supposed to happen. It hasn't happened. So like I don't know. That just leads you to believe it's very easy to believe they just don't have the options on the table, because if they did have the options, people wouldn't be talking like they're talking about this.
No, this is just me personally. I don't buy much of the UConn stuff that's kind of floated out there the last week or so. What's that?
I do.
Like you buy it as like they're a legit, like top tier candidate.
Kinda, yeah.
I don't.
If you want to go coast to coast, as he has continued to say he does.
He can say a lot of things. I don't believe that like the president of Texas Tech will be cool with that.
Do you really think they're going against this guy right now?
Before they find out what happens with the Pac-12?
I think he's looking at it as UConn can add the Northeast. Like they say what you will. UConn basketball, men's and women's, has a significant foothold in the Northeast. Now, UConn football is trash, but he's a basketball. I think that's what we have to kind of remember about this guy, is that he's a basketball guy. Now, there have been some reports that the football-minded schools of the Big 12 are looking at this and going, we don't make basketball decisions here. Yeah, we've got a great basketball conference, but that's not how we make decisions.
That's by happenstance.
Yeah, it just so happens that we're the best basketball conference in the country right now. We didn't try to do that. We just did.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so much smoke on it, and I think UConn holds a different place than we maybe think about in terms of like where UConn basketball stacks up. They are the preeminent, if you want to count titles over the past 20 years, they are the preeminent basketball program in the country in terms of getting shit done and putting trophies in the trophy case.
Yeah, for sure. But it's still not
men and women's.
It's still not like they pack MSG when they play because it's like 8 miles away. Like they're still not bringing like.
But he is obsessed with New York City, Dave. They're going to Rucker Park.
You know who's not obsessed with New York City?
Texas,
Oklahoma, Kansas, Iowa, like those states are not obsessed with New York City.
But you know what those basketball programs are very interested in? Getting those players from the NEPSAC, the Northeast Prep School League, getting those players from New York City. Like that is still a very, very relevant pocket of some of the best talent in the country, that if you add a UConn, it kind of changes the dynamic of being able to crack some of those recruiting battles.
Well, that is to be determined, I think.
I'm not saying it's like a slam dunk. I don't think it's. I think it's more than just like rumors that are out there. I do think.
Oh, I'm sure they've had. I mean, I know
pretty
that. I'm
serious
sure
talks with
UConn fans would hate it, but like if I'm running UConn as a business, as a university, like they're so far in the red, and
that's also what you have to consider.
And they're not getting out of it by the Big East TV, TV deal. They're only
the Big East TV deal just does what they need to run UConn basketball.
Right. I mean, they're still subsidizing just like UC. Hopefully that goes down as they obviously make a bunch more money.
I hope it doesn't go down. Keep subsidizing.
Yeah.
Add it. Just stack it.
Just keep using it. Doesn't matter to me. I mean,
right. It's not. And just add that 30 million to the 50.
To the football and basketball and all the other sports budgets.
Yeah.
I just looked at it as like it didn't make sense that it was like all of a sudden going to happen until you knew what was going to happen with the Pac-12. Like you can add UConn whenever the hell you want. Like if they want to come and you really want to add them, why does it have to happen like anytime in the near future? I'm kind of indifferent on all of it. Like Arizona to me would be of all. I mean, the realistic ones. I don't think Utah is really realistic. They seem to be more than happy in the Pac-12. Like Arizona, I'd be most interested in, followed by Colorado. UConn, I don't really care one way or the other. I think
football stinks. You're a football guy. Their football stinks. It's dog shit.
But
there's no way out for them.
Even the basketball side of it, like, are they great at basketball? Yes. But like UC's good at basketball and they're going to the best basketball conference. Like, does adding UConn truly make that big of a mark when you're already like the best becomes a little bit more best?
I thought there was something very interesting building as a rivalry, UC and UConn in the Big East. It was interesting. Like that became kind of the one thing that it felt like there was some heat developing there between the two programs.
Yeah, in the American.
In the Big East, they were only in the American for 2 years, 3 years. No, like they were only before Ollie took over and nosedived them. Like they were only relevant in the American for 2-3 years.
Title
before he crashed it into the ground, he won a title. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he sued him and won a shit ton of money.
Sure, but he also faced what I tried to explain to people a million times was very real. Nobody wanted to play in the American. Nobody. Right. And you see now that they're back in the Big East, guess what? Kids in the Northeast want to play for UConn again.
Yeah.
Shocking. Like you put them in the Big 12. I think they're very interesting.
I mean, the part of it that I understand, and I don't know. I don't know if we talked about this last week or not. I think we did, but the part of it that I get, I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with, but I get is if your Mark's plan and it's backed up by data, is that I can sell this great basketball conference on its own.
Yeah.
And I take UConn, I kneecap the Big East and their next media rights deal. Yeah. And I pitch this to Fox as you get 100% of my basketball content because you already get some. You had the Big East.
Yeah.
Why would you pay $8 million a year for the Big East minus UConn? Just pay $15 million a year to us for basketball, and then I'll sell football to ESPN and Fox for 25. Or I'm just coming up with a number. And now you got 40.
Right.
Versus 32 before when it was all together. I totally get it. I'm not saying I really want it to happen or I think
But that's his like you can see that's kind of his vision.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, because I mean, what is UConn's what is the Big East value from a TV standpoint without UConn?
We know that they have struggled with TV ratings on Fox.
They struggle with TV ratings with UConn.
Right. Well, teams that aren't UConn. And Villanova, which Villanova doesn't have Jay Wright anymore. So how much of that are you going to carry? I get it. I'm not saying I agree with it. I don't ever want to see UC play UConn in football ever again.
I just don't like the getting back. Like the league is already far flung for UC, but the vast majority of the league is Central Texas, Plain States, and that's fine. If we're the outlier geographically, whatever, that's fine. You add them, and now we start to verge back into what the American was, where there's somebody way up here, and Central Florida's way down here, and BYU's all the way over here, and it just, you want to go coast to coast, why? Like, what is the true value in that to your teams? Like, does it get them a couple million more bucks? Okay, great. But then, like, what does that mean for all of your other athletes? Like, we talk about, like, football and basketball so much, but, like, all the other sports aren't chartering flights.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, football and basketball charter a lot of flights, but nobody else does. Like, they're going from CVG to Dallas to Salt Lake City on a regular ass plane, just like if I was getting on the plane going from CVG to Dallas to Salt Lake City. So, like, and now you're going to make them go up to Stores and all the way to Spokane. And it seems a bit ridiculous to me. Personally,
it's all ridiculous, Dave. Like,
it is, but that doesn't mean you have to, like,
ridiculous.
But it doesn't mean you have to continue the ridiculousness. You're allowed to stop the ridiculousness at a certain point.
No, you're not. No, you're not. You just have to keep getting more and more and more and more ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. The ridiculous thing would be if the Pac-12 actually somehow signed a media rights contract, because then we could find out what the number really is that's good enough or not good enough. Because all it is right now is it's just we've been saying the same shit for how many months in a row.
This is I truly believe this is Brett Yormark saying this is maybe a way we can keep up, or not keep up, but this is the best way we're going to be able to keep contact with the SEC and the Big Ten, is if we split basketball and it gives us something that nobody else is doing. Sure, definitely if it works, the SEC and the Big Ten are going to do something similar or try to. But the thing is, the SEC has cast their lot with ESPN. The Big Ten has cast their lot with Fox.
Yep.
Like this is something that is unique to the Big 12, that they're playing in both pools, I guess.
Well, but the Big Ten's in the Fox,
NBC and
CBS, and NBC.
Yeah. But NBC and CBS has done some basketball, like, obviously, but they don't. You're not turning on CBS at 9:00 on a Tuesday and watching. Even
their coverage feels like it's been cut down. I mean, I remember.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that long ago where every weekend there was
like a triple header.
At least two games, like a 2:00, 4:00, Big 12, SEC, or it always feels like there's Big 10 on Sundays on CBS. But I mean, it feels like, back in the good American days, you'd get a UC Houston game end of the year on there, but there'd be more. It feels like there's a lot. There feels like that number's been dwindling of their national basketball coverage.
Yeah, it's interesting. like it's fascinating. The different ways that your mark is trying to like envision this, trying to take this. So
And that's what we said. Like, not everything is going to be a home run.
right, you're gonna hit some doubles. You might even strike out a time or two.
Yeah, I mean, some like I don't understand. Like, I really don't get the whole Mexico football thing.
Right.
I'm not sure how many kids in Mexico you're getting to like go to Big 12 schools because you go down there and play a football game and take a home game away from
right.
one of your teams, and how many fans are really realistically gonna be interested or be able to,
like we've talked about, you're gonna go down there and play in altitude. It's like double Denver basically in Mexico City. Like, you're going to mess the team up for like the following week, or do you have to schedule it and then make sure they have a bye week?
Yeah, I don't know. That one doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but at the same time, like the combine thing, I love the Rucker Park thing. I love,
right.
So this is what you get when you bring in that type of a guy. You're not gonna love everything, but you take.
You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have.
I knew you were going to say that.
You set me up.
I'm sorry.
I wouldn't do it if they didn't just look so clueless when I said it that first time on the BBP. All three of them. What are you talking about?
I deal with children.
All right.
I do have to say, I have to give Royer a shout out. I've been I don't know why today all of a sudden, but I looked up the what do you I don't know what he calls it, techno EDM.
Yeah, the group he went to see.
It's good stuff.
Is that going to be playing at the Simone family?
Oh, definitely.
Vacation.
Definitely. I sent a text to my brother, and actually the guy that's getting married next week is a DJ as well, asking about them, and they were both like, "Oh yeah, they make awesome mixes." And my one buddy's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have some of it in the wedding." So yeah, there'll definitely be some two friends, big booty mix at the Simone family vacation later on this summer.
I just love that Royer like legitimately went out of town for that.
They're coming to Newport in 2 weeks. I was going to ask him if he was going.
Yeah, Chelsea said that her and Stu is going. I don't know if Chelsea is going, but Stu is going.
Yeah, they're I think
mix.
Columbus or something tonight, Indy tomorrow. Because I was like, well, I wonder if they're close. I'm old though, so I could only go if it was on the weekend.
Right.
I think
you're not doing weekday EDM shows.
I think it was like a Tuesday night in a couple weeks. I'm like, yeah, probably not gonna be able to make that one.
But Dave, Stu is like a rocket scientist, aerospace engineer, and he's going on a weekday.
I think he's probably like 15, 17 years younger than me.
He's like 30, I think. He's around 30. Chelsea's clearly not here anymore.
Yeah, she'd been chiming in, but no. I mean, hey, you never know. Maybe I'll just show up.
There you go. Maybe you can just hit up slide in Stu's DMs and go with Stu.
Yeah.
And Royer.
Can't wait to that conversation. Hey, Rachel, I'm thinking about going to this techno show Tuesday night. What do you think?
It's called the Big Booty Mix.
You good to watch Will while I go see Big Booty Mix 24? Volume 23 or whatever.
Can you set the phone to record like in a corner of the room when you have that conversation?
Yeah,
that'd be great TikTok content.
I mean, she'd probably be cool with it. Like yesterday was our anniversary, and the house conversation was dominated with her at least pretending or showing that she was interested in the whole PGA Tour live thing. So
I can only imagine you just going off on that subject and Rachel sitting.
Oh, we watched hour and a half
Press
podcast
conference.
about it during dinner last night. The no laying up guys went live around dinner time, so that was on while we had dinner.
You 100% found your soulmate.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
All right. I got the little one is like, can I stop watching the dogs? That's a big goal. So we're gonna get out of here.
Well, it's fitting. You guys went under 2 hours Monday night, which is a stunner, and now we're going over. So
we went over, and then Aaron and I are going to talk about NCAA football 2024, which is his favorite topic on the nightcap tonight. So we won't. I'll try not to mention Ellie De La Cruz, so you don't turn it off, Dave.
Oh, he seems like a cool guy. I don't like the Reds.
That's okay. I just want to watch him. That's my thing. I want to watch him. He's 6'6". He plays shortstop. He hits it harder than anybody else. He runs faster than anybody else. He throws harder than anybody else. Like, it's just fascinating to me. I'm pretty sure he's an alien.
So he'll be on the Yankees in 3 years. Is that what you're saying?
Probably 5. He'll get a 5. You got to maximize value here. You get at least 5 years out of him. But all right, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks to Chris Anderson from earsports.com. Great stuff on WVU. We'll continue that as we get through the summer. Thanks to our good friends at the Holy Grail. Thanks to Team Ticker. And we will see you next time. This is the BCJ Podcast presented by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com.